you to have. And then the second part, we've got a lot of, we have a bunch of students who are coming to talk to you about their experiences in the workplace. And we actually do have one alum as well, who is successful in the workplace in the United States. So really great information for you. I hope you can stay for both parts because I think we'll get a lot out of both pieces. My name is Leslie Jackson. I'm Student Outreach Coordinator at Penn State Career Services. We've got Sherry Rice over here through SMEAL, Anne-Marie Daniels through Science, and then Chelsea, she's in the blue dress out there, she's from Liberal Arts. We've got Amy Johnson from Environmental Science. So it's really a full, we have a lot of colleges, et cetera, that put this together for you tonight. So I really hope that you'll enjoy it and get a lot of information out of it. Please get ready with those questions ready to go as well. If you grab the sheet here, that's just our agenda for the evening, and then the smaller sheet, we'll put up a slide later at the end of the session, at the end of the evening. But we have one of our counseling, in career counseling, our graduate students is doing a special study, specifically targeting students from East, Middle, and South Asia. And she could really use your help. So if you check one of these little things that looks like there's a chance to win an Amazon gift card, it's better. So please help her out. We'll put a slide up later. But right now, if you could please give your attention to Susan and Brian, and I'll let them take it away. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Susan. Brian Aljo is my colleague from DISSA. He's one of our very experienced international student advisors. We're going to really provide some highlights on the topic. All things immigration are detail-oriented and complex. It's just, I think the United States happens to have one of the more complex immigration systems, but we really dedicate ourselves to try to help you through the process as much as possible. So just starting off with some basic advice, because maintaining your status more broadly is critical to being able to take advantage of employment opportunities. The State Department tells us the #1 advice that we can give international students from before they arrive to the entire time they're here is plan ahead and apply early. So that will be a major theme for us. And the truth is, in all areas of life, when you plan ahead and apply early, things tend to go better. One of my professors used to say, the longer you wait to act, your options are more limited. And that tends to be very true. And I think the Career Center would agree with that advice. We have 10,000 international students at Penn State who are enrolled, another 2,000 on graduate training, plus international faculty and researchers. And because the work we do is so complex and there's really no room really for error, but we're human beings, we have a 10 to 14 day business turnaround. When we're able to do things quicker, we make every effort to do that, but we have to approach our work in such a way to minimize human error, which can be a huge problem, even the smallest typo. So again, it's planning ahead for holidays and peak months. August and September, when the new students are arriving, we are swamped. We have to register all 10,000 students in CVIS every semester, and when the new students arrive, they're extra busy. November, December, January because of the holidays, and the start of the new semester in April, May. Sometimes things can even take a little bit longer. And if you have any kind of complex case, sometimes you need to plan a little extra time for that. Maintain your status, keep your documents valid. We don't want to see students lose benefits because they're not keeping their status up to date. There have always been serious penalties for violating status, but things are a little extra strict right now. And before making any significant change, consult with a DISSA advisor. So the best advice, again, for both CPT and OPT is taking the DISSA training. We have one for each, reading our guidance and asking questions. It's important to know the rules, which again, our government unfortunately makes things complex. A basic thing is no employment before written authorization. Pay attention to the instruction details. It's very detail oriented, and we've seen students lose their opportunity for OPT by not paying attention to the details. And again, we can't emphasize enough, plan ahead and apply early. So our focus here today is F1 curricular practical training, which is for opportunities during your program, and F1 optional practical training, which is generally post-degree. For CPT, it's authorized by DISSA. The authorization will be in CVIS and on your I-20. For OPT, it's authorized by USCIS in the form of an EAD. So the key is do not begin employment until you have the appropriate authorization. And for OPT, once your program ends, your ability to work on campus ends. So it's really important not to keep working or you can violate your status. And the government is pretty unforgivable about unauthorized employment, so we don't want you to have any difficulty. So Brian is going to talk about CPT, and then.
Is that me?
Yep. So you want to?
I don't need a microphone. I'm from New Jersey, so you don't need a microphone. So I'll talk about CPT, curricular practical training. Just remember, this is work during your academic program, like internships or work experience. It is not a job, so keep that in mind. It's a start and end date. That's a big deal. It's not. I will. Is this the microphone? Right. So now I can do my base. I can go back. All right. So you must be enrolled full time for 1 full year before you're eligible. That even includes if your CVIS, you get a new CVIS number. Now you have another year to go. So 2 full semesters. Not necessarily a year. We say full academic year, fall, spring, fall, full time. Sound good, Susan? Right, she agrees. All right, the internship course must be an integral part of your established curriculum, which means you're going to enroll in a course. An internship course for this program, which it says that must enroll in an internship course for the semester because it's related to your major. If you're an accounting major and you want to work at a cash register at Walmart, not really accounting. Anybody can do that. Well, I can, but most people can. So if it's required of all students, the practical training must be a curriculum requirement. Sometimes it's required. That can change rules a little bit. You might not have to enroll in a course for that. It's required. And you might not have to wait a year for that. It's required for your program.
I just want to clarify, there's only 1 or 2 programs where it's required of all students and they don't have an appropriate course, and only in those cases is a course not required.
Right. And I was going to differently say that if you need 1 more credit to graduate, that's not a requirement. If you want to use 1 credit, it's got to be written on your program that you must do an internship to graduate. The optional, if it's not required, must be credit bearing, at least 1 credit internship or similar courses over. And we'll go over the steps that you need to do. Training must be directly related to the student's major, and it's authorized per semester by DISSA in CVIS and in writing. So if it's maybe 8 months and carries over to the next semester, you're going to apply again and continue it on to that semester. And just because you got, let's say you have a start date of October 1st, you put it in on September 25th and it's not approved yet, you cannot start on October 1st till it's approved. So you might want to tell your employers, I need about 2 weeks. Say, would you like a position? Yes, I need about 2 weeks. All right. So CPT, off-campus employment for F1 students during academic program, authorized and see this by these. You guys taking pictures of me? I didn't get my hair done. I don't want you to take it away. So part-time is 20 hours or less. So if you want to do part-time CPT, 20 hours or less. Full-time will be over more than 20. You can do part-time or full-time. If you do 365 days or more of full-time CPT, you will lose your OPT. It's rare. I don't see too many students doing that many days. But if you miscalculate and you have 365 by accident, it's gone. OPT is gone. And if you don't know OPT, Susan will explain after this. Too fast? I'm from New Jersey. We speak fast. No? Too slow? All right, full-time CPT is generally authorized during summer. That's the general time when people can go away, you know, New York, Los Angeles, Idaho, North Dakota, right? I know you all want to get to North Dakota. So it's generally authorized during summer. You can go full-time, you can go part-time, but generally during the summer. Note, summer is a vacation term only if enrolled in spring prior and the upcoming fall. And you're intending to basically continue your enrollment into the fall. And part-time CPT during fall and spring, while enrolled full-time, may be possible. Some people do that. They work downtown or somewhere close by. But talk to us first, just to make sure everything's clear. All right, CPT. If internship is paid employment, CPT is required. And if it's unpaid, may still be required. So come talk to us. Walk-in advising. I think it's better than a submitted question. It's best to come in and we have a conversation about what you're doing, just to be safe. Like, we're here to keep you safe. So we learn the rules the best we can and keep your visa safe. Because down the road, you may get away with something now. Maybe you can get past it. But you might not down the road when you want an H-1B, your permanent residence. It can make things difficult for you. So we're doing our best to keep you legal and a nice, clear visa record. Okay. So the timeline, this is important because we can get them done quickly if you follow the right timeline. Some people think, oh, I'll put it in real quick and not do a couple things. And then my 2-week window, I'll have it quicker. When it's incorrect, it'll delay you more than 2 weeks. It could. So keep that in mind. So make sure you follow the steps. It's also online. So you want to get the job offer. If they give you an offer, say, can I start in about 2 weeks? They'll probably say, sure, no problem. Then you want to request the things that are on the letter. Request employment job offer letter and include the information required by the government. And there's instructions there. There's a few things. On letterhead, exact start and end dates, address where you'll be, the exact address, right? Not New York City, but an exact address. Not, I'll start as soon as possible. We need exact dates. They can be adjusted with a new letter, but we need exact dates when we do these things. So those are the details you want on the letter. We actually recommend you highlight those. And when you upload them in iStart, we have the 5 things uploaded. It helps you because you know what you're missing, but it also helps us move quickly. We want to get done quickly. 8 of us and over 10,000 of you. So we're outnumbered. Even though I can handle 9,000. That's not true. Seek approval from your academic advisor. So you want to take this letter, after you got the letter, you want to go to your advisor and say, I want to do this internship. Can I get an internship credit for it? 1 credit. How they run that, what class they choose is up to your department, your college. But you can ask them that you'd like to do that. What's required in the course, we don't care either. As long as you have that course. And if it's approved, you're going to register for the course that they state before applying an iStart. This will speed things up. I urge you submitting. Right. Info required. Oh, there it is. Susan showed me in advance, but like I said, I go too fast. So this letter should have these things. Job title, right? Even if it says intern, that's cool. It works. It's a title. Start and end dates, exact dates, not approximate. Hours per week, we need the exact hours. Again, not approximate. Full-time may work, but it could, we got to look at things and make sure. So hours are good. And if you say 40, we're not calculating. They did 39 and 41 next week. but it's full-time, we know it's full-time, and then 40 is the rule. But if you do say part-time, 20 hours, you can't go over. Like, you can't do 22 hours one week and 18 the next. So keep within that maximum of 20 hours if you are part-time. Location, actual address, where you will be. They can do site visits. I'm not gonna be too happy if it's the wrong address, or you put New York City and they gotta walk whole New York City. Looking for it. They'll get upset with that. I've done it, and it takes too much time. Brief description of duties related to me, what you'll be doing. Make sure that's on your letter. Signature, this person's who signs it, signatory, name and title, and the date of the offer. That's good too. That helps us. Because if you had your offer in February, and then you apply in April, and you say, hurry up, I only got a week, you have a few months to do that. So the date of offer, which should be on there anyway, but it also helps us out. All right. And then you got all those things, you apply an iStart, you're gonna upload the employee offer letter. Then you're gonna put in your academic advisor's name and contact, because when you hit submit, they're gonna get an email just to verify the information. It says approver, they're gonna approve it. They don't really approve this information. They're really verifying that everything you're stating, that they're stating, is what's happening. They'll get, it's automatic. It automatically sends to them. So make sure they're aware of it. That's another big thing. Don't put down someone you didn't talk to. Put down the person you talked to. Unless it's your friend, then that's not going to count. Academic advisor, someone from the college. Within 1 to 2 business days, the case will get assigned because the advisor has to give their input. Then it'll get assigned, processed within 10 to 14 business days. And if it's correct, I anticipate faster response time, but can't guarantee it. Allow time for processing when selecting a start date. That's important as well. Follow the process correctly, or we'll be unable to improve it. And as I said earlier, incorrect applications will cause delays, possibly denial, and everything like that. Cool. Oh, OPT. Does everybody understand? Ruby? Cool. Right. You can ask questions after, I'll come back up or something.
International students always wait till the end to ask questions.
That's very nice. That's probably the best way to do it.
Nothing to do with Brian's charming personality.
What?
Brian makes us all laugh in the office. Keeps things light. So, optional practical training. It's called optional because under limited circumstances, you can use part of the 12 months before you graduate, but the reality is most students who are strategic say that the whole 12 months are post-degree. And we're focusing on post-degree because that's what most students do. And generally, that's the best way to use this benefit. So it's 12 months of work authorization in the field of your major for F1 students earning a U.S. degree. There are 2 types, as I said, post-completion, which is the most common. Pre-completion is rarely used, and we're not really going to go spend time on that. So for optional practical training, really all off-campus employment pretty much, you're only eligible after completing 1 academic year of full-time enrollment as an F1 student. All practical training must be directly related to the major, not the minor. The whole idea is rounding off what you learned in the classroom. For the first 12 months of OPT, a job offer is not required to apply. The earliest you can apply is 90 days before your program end date. So is anyone graduating in December? Next May?
Congratulations.
When are the rest of you graduating? In a year or 2? You're planning ahead. Well, the semester that you're going to graduate, usually the program end date will be the date of graduation for the date. Are there any doctoral students here? Doctoral students are a little different, but for everybody else, Generally, the program end date will be the date of graduation for the semester of your graduation. So up to 90 days before that, you can apply to us for we are giving a recommendation, and then you have to apply to USCIS. It's highly recommended that you apply before your program end date, before you finish the program, and as close as possible to that 90-day point. The reason is because the government takes up to 5 months to process, and many cases sometimes come back in, let's say, 3 months, but they report up to 5 months. The later that you apply, you're not going to get the full 12 months because the OPT cannot end, this is regulatory, more than 14 months after your program completion date. So if you apply in your grace period and they take 3 to 5 months to process, it's going to start when you get the EAD, and by law, they cannot give you an end date beyond 14 months. So you will not get the full 12 months. So it's highly advisable to apply as early as you can before your program end date. You can apply during the grace period. If you are applying late, we strongly advise that you submit your application no later than 15 days after you complete the program. We need time to process, and then once you get the I-20 from us with the recommendation, you have this complicated package you have to put together for USCIS and get it off to them. If it's not done exactly to the details they want, it won't be approved. And we've seen students, it was sent back, and by the time they got it back, they were beyond the date that they could reapply and lost their OPT, and we don't want to see that happen. So again, the OPT requested start date cannot be later than the end of the 60-day grace period. Once you do have your EAD card, you cannot have more than 90 days of unemployment. And again, the semester that you graduate, once you complete the program, you can no longer work on campus. So the application process, again, is through iStart. The OPT request is a grouping of 4 e-forms. You have to complete all of them. When the first 3 are done, you then have access to the 4th. After you submit the 4th, your academic advisor receives an email with a link to do his or her part. Once the academic advisor completes their part and hits submit, you will get an email notification. Only then is it considered submitted to DISSA. And generally, within 1 to 2 business days, the case is assigned to an international student advisor. So it's important to plan on 10 to 14 days after the case is assigned to an advisor. And when you apply early, it just, again, things go better. People who apply late, that's in our peak time when the volume of things that people need and everything people need at that point is urgent. So it becomes really challenging. So once it's approved in iStart, you will receive an I-20 with a recommendation. We're not going into all the details. We have a whole workshop on putting together the USCIS packet because it's very detail oriented, and that would take up our whole time here. But the important thing is that package has to get to USCIS no later than 30 days from the date with the OPT recommendation, or USCIS will reject the whole case. So again, for the details of applying to USCIS, we have training, we have a packet review workshop. USCIS is reporting I looked it up today, up to 5 months processing time. You cannot begin work until you have your EAD card, and for people who apply early, where the requested start date might be in the future, that start date has to be present before you can start work. Once you have the EAD, you need to start work within 90 days because of the 90-day unemployment rule. So CPT versus the OPT. So in both cases, again, you have to be in F1 status 1 full academic year to work off campus. For CPT, an internship course is required, and you have to be registered in the term. Sometimes we had some odd situations where someone wanted to take the internship course one semester and work in a different term. That doesn't work for the government. But no registration is required for post-completion OPT. A job is required for CPT. It's actually a job-specific work authorization. And if you get CPT and then for whatever reason you decide not to pursue the job, it's important, number one, that you communicate with the employer, but you also need to let us know so that we can take action in CDIS to report that you're not going to pursue the employment. We had a case this summer where a student was granted CPT, never showed up at the employer, which I know, I knew I'd get this reaction. It's not good for you or the university if you're offered a job, you accept the job, and then you know, if something happens and you don't want to pursue the job, it's really important that you communicate with the employer as a courtesy. It's just professional behavior, but it's also really important for us because we are granting that work authorization in your DHS CVIS record. And so if you're not going to pursue the job, it was a mess because the professor wanted to drop the student out of the course because they didn't pursue the course, and it's a pass-fail that you couldn't pass the student if they didn't do the internship. But we had authorized in CVIS, so there should be an internship course on the record. It was a major mess, and if the student had realized that communication was important, we could have addressed the whole thing. So for CPT, there's no minimum work hours per week, generally not more than 20 hours per week during the academic year, because for 99% of programs, you have to be full-time during the year. There are very, very few programs where a full-time internship is required, but that's extremely rare. For the initial 12 months of OPT, you can change employers without reapplying. It just has to be in the field of your major. The work authorization for CPT is granted by DISSA in CVIS and on your I-20. For USCIS, OPT is granted by USCIS on the EAD card. And for post-completion OPT, you must work a minimum of 20 hours per week. So, circling back, our best advice, take our training, follow our guidance, ask questions, know the rules. Again, no employment until you have written authorization, which again, for CPT is on the I-20. It's not our approval email, it's on the I-20. And for USCIS, it's the EAD for OPT. And I can't emphasize enough to pay attention to the instruction details. The details really matter. And plan ahead and apply early. I think most of you know our advising hours, Monday and Tuesday, 1:30 to 4:30, Thursday and Friday, 8:30 to 11:30. We do have a submitted question, but for those of you who are physically here, generally you can get better advice when you come in and we are able to clarify things in your question. The submitted question is particularly helpful if you have graduated, you're on OPT, you're in California, and you're not able to come in. So we do have that available, but when you're physically here, it's generally better where we can have a conversation and we're totally sure what you're asking. If we need to clarify information, you're right there. So now you can ask questions, and probably there's no bad question. Any question you have, other people may have the same question, so please don't feel shy. Yes?
Does a research position on campus count as CPT?
Does what?
Research position on campus. If I want to do research.
Well, can you not do that through on-campus employment? Is this a 20-hour position? Are you a graduate student?
No, I'm not.
You're an undergrad. So most of the positions I think they might offer are 20 hours a week, except maybe in the summer. You can do that through your on-campus employment benefit, but it is 20 hours maximum during the academic year that you can do on-campus employment. During the summer, as long as you're continuing in the fall, which is what, again, for something to be considered a summer vacation, you have to be enrolled in the spring and expecting and eligible to continue in the fall. Then it's a summer vacation. When it's a summer vacation, you can work full time. So generally for on-campus research, which is usually limited to 20 hours a week for student appointments, I would suggest using the on-campus employment benefit. But then that would probably be the only job you have because it's 20 hours maximum. Yes.
So when applying online, there's usually.
Join me.
Sure.
So when applying online, there's usually a question about being authorized to work in the United States. And it's usually a yes or no type of question. So should I say I'm not authorized for it? Or am I authorized?
So I'm sorry, this is for off-campus job opportunities?
Yeah, related to my major, and I'm applying for internships online. So I'm completing the application online for a position.
And you're in a program that has like some sort of internship in the curriculum?
I'm just doing it for.
No, but I mean, is there a course you'll be able to enroll for? I mean, most programs do have something like that.
Yeah, we do get this question quite often from students. In other words, I think if I understand what you're saying, I'm not sure who's asking the question, but how do you answer that question on the application? Are you authorized to work in the United States, right? Right.
Because you're authorized if you use your CPTs. That's where it gets confusing.
Right, that's why students get confused.
But you need to, they just kind of need to be sure that they're going to be eligible for CPT. I think most programs do have some sort of internship type course that's either required or optional. So as long as your major program has some sort of internship or co-op, what are you studying? Finance.
So there's an optional course for an internship that you would take over the summer that you would have to take to utilize your CPT. So that would suffice for that. But you do need to basically make sure that you would give the job description to our office and we would verify that it matches your major. So it has to be finance oriented to showcase that it's in a position that would work. And then you're enrolled into the internship class. Then you should.
Well, and for CPT, it also has to be related, so.
Yeah.
I'm happy they do a good job screening.
We do screen it, but as long as it's a bank with a finance position, it would be fine.
So as long as you've been here a full academic year, you're invalid status as an F1. Your invalid status, your program does have an internship course. Generally, you would be eligible for CPT. Yeah, I can't make like a blanket
So-
statement
Yes.
that everybody.
I would say the only thing to be careful about that, because I think I know what you might be getting at there. And it also depends on how the question is phrased. And so sometimes I've seen it, are you eligible, will you need a
Sponsorship.
visa now or in the future?
Visa sponsorship.
Visa sponsorship in the now or in the future?
When I was applying, was,
Yeah,
are you authorized to work in the United States?
right.
And even if I said I'm not, I was still able to put some United States cities.
But it probably isn't, smart enough to identify which one you selected. It's probably just a text entry.
Yes.
But if it asks both questions of are you authorized and do you require a visa, I would say that might be different. It's more of like if that's the
Yeah.
only question.
Usually, I don't think it says do you, usually it says, will you now or in the future
Yep.
require visa sponsorship?
And then that would be yes.
That's a little different.
Although if it's strictly an internship, for purposes of the internship, you would not require visa sponsorship from the employer, which is what they really want to know.
But that's why they usually
But-
say in the future.
Right.
No, well, I
That's what it
used,
should
I
be.
used to do the employment-based sponsorship for faculty in my last job, and I've also engaged with employers. When people are applying for post-degree employment, because for an internship, that's for a finite period. It's mutually understood
True.
as a finite period. So I think it could be argued that for purposes of applying for what is clearly posted as an internship, you would not need visa sponsorship for that. But if you're applying for post-degree employment where you can start the job on OPT, but usually those kinds of jobs is not for a finite period. It's indefinite as long as they're happy with you, you're happy with them. And those are the cases where to be able to continue, visa sponsorship is needed. And it's that situation that employers really want to know. But
That's
you could.
so that's true. The only thing I would just add, and this is a tough situation, I understand. The only thing I would add is I think with anything, any interaction you have with employers, I think it's a worse situation to miscommunicate.
Yes.
To say something, but they wanted to know something else. So for example, with an internship, the idea is that you're there for 10 weeks or whatever, and that you're coming back to school. There are some employers, however, who use the internship experience to field full-time, people
Correct.
who will be available for full-time employment. So the point is, it depends on the employer. And I think it's always better to disclose and be very clear about what you need now or later
Right.
in the process.
Because what you don't want to have happen is if you had said like, no, I don't require the visa sponsorship. And then you go through all the paperwork and then at some point it gets brought back up again. They're like, well, wait, we can't hire you. And you've already stopped your recruiting process. You've already turned down maybe other opportunities and you were kind of putting all your eggs in that basket. And then because you didn't necessarily say, I will at some point need visa, they're like, well, wait, we can't necessarily go that way. So it is better to be upfront earlier because you don't want to get yourself in that situation, because a lot of times the employer is looking to field their full-time off of their interns, which is why they usually word that question of, will you now or in the future? Because that in the future is really what they're looking for. That yes, for CPT, you don't necessarily need to be working towards that visa, but if you want to go towards the H-1B to use your OPT, you will be needing that visa. And so that's kind of the question is, to stay in the US, are you going to be needing that visa at some point?
But again, it depends on the employer.
It does.
And so that's why it's good to be clear. Okay.
One more question to clarify, because I'm confused about it. Visa sponsorship. Do I need visa sponsorship to participate in OPT? Let's say I want to just be for 12 months working at a company. Do I need to be sponsored a visa?
No, but that's where the employer is going to struggle, because if you're only planning on staying around for a year, I may not necessarily want to look at you because I want to retain you past that year. So if you're planning on staying with me past the year, then you will need the sponsorship because you only have 12 months of OPT.
I was also considering, transferring from some of the offices here, probably to Europe, where I'm eligible for. So just to be precise with the definition of what visa sponsorship means, wanted to
Well, you know, if you're working in a country that's not your own country, there will be other employment laws that company has to follow just as an aside.
Yeah, they gave you a vague question. Technically, you could give them a vague answer, but I like this advice here. Because you are authorized to work if it's an internship.
Right.
If you get permission, you're authorized. So you could technically say yes.
I thought you were talking about one of these online
Right.
systems where there's not, it's an online question and there's not really any place to.
Sometimes there's not, yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Because you say, okay, I'm not eligible to work in the United States, and then I mention like 2 locations, and I have a third
Yeah.
location which I can choose. I choose, let's say, my home country.
Right.
They're gonna look at that and say, okay, you're not eligible to work here. So right off the bat, we're not gonna even consider that.
My advice is if you cannot find a space to be more clarified on that application, give HR a call
Yes.
and just say, I want to answer this honestly. I can get sponsorship, but for a specified period. How do I answer this question? And if
I
they're
don't
not
know
going to,
how that works in a big place.
It's
well, you're
tricky.
going to find out because you are a skilled and proactive employee. I think they'd appreciate it.
And you guys, just so you know, there is still the panel that's going to be happening in just a few minutes, but we're definitely happy to take any other questions before that gets set up.
Could you go back to the table of difference between CPT and
I can't, because you went out of the presentation.
Oh. Which slide are you trying to get to?
I don't know, which one was it?
It's
the table of difference?
19.
19, she said. There it is.
19. There we go.
Could you just clarify the third point under OPT? What do you mean by job not required?
In order to apply for OPT for the initial 12 months, you do not have to have a job lined up. So let's say you apply early during your final term. You don't have to have a job in hand to apply for OPT. You will have to, you know, be looking for a job and line up a job so that you don't wind up with 90 days of unemployment once you get your EAD. It's once you get the EAD card that you cannot have more than 90 days of unemployment. But at the time you're applying, which is a many months process, you don't have to have a job at that stage. For CPT, you do, because it's employer specific.
Yeah, quick question. So if we use up all of our 12 months OPT period, do we like have to immediately leave the country? Like say if I got a job at a tech company, right? And I'm still using my OPT, but then once the 12
What
months
is your
pass,
field?
I'll apply data science.
Well, there is a designated list of designated STEM fields. If your major is on the designated list, you can be eligible for an additional 24 months. Not every field is on that list.
And I can find this list maybe State Department's website.
No, it's Department of Homeland Security.
Right, thank you.
Google STEM.
Just
STEM OPT designated list.
I think we're gonna-
But you do have to, there are very specific requirements for STEM. It's extremely cumbersome.
There's a code on your I-20. You can match the code on your I-20 to the list.
So what if I already complete my internship course the past summer in my home country? Can I still apply in this state?
So something that you did in your home country has no bearing on your ability to do an internship.
But the course
As
is
long as your academic program. So are you saying you did an internship in your country, but it was for an internship course in your program?
Yeah.
I think you have to talk to your department about your eligibility to do any further internship.
Okay.
It's called curricular practical training because it's tied to your curriculum. They originally created the benefit because there are academic programs where you can't graduate unless you can do an internship. And if it truly involves employment, which in most cases it does, you need the ability to work. So that's why this benefit was created.
So we have nothing to do with a CPT in another country. If you do that, if you're doing an internship in another country, we have nothing, our office has nothing to do with it.
No, but what she's saying is she fulfilled an internship benefit in her degree program through a job
Oh, I see.
overseas.
Yeah, it's done.
So she would have to confirm whether there's the ability to do any further internships in that program, which is a curricular.
Oh, shoot, there are 3 jobs.
So if I'm going to graduate in the next May, could I still eligible to apply or do an internship by
So curricular practical training is to do an internship during your program before you graduate.
So after I graduate, I can go to
So OPT is to get work experience directly related to your major, but generally after you graduate. We don't tend to call it an internship, but it's still getting experience in the field of your major.
So in short, it can be an internship, start and end date, it's on OPT. Just related to your major. It's got to be 20 hours or more.
We have another question, right?
We got her too.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm sorry. You're going to start looking in March?
No, I'm saying that.
Well, I mean, I've met students at these events in the fall where they get jobs lined up in the fall for the following spring. So, it is advisable to apply ahead of the completion of your program. And the one who wants to get the
Earlier, Andrea signed in, so I just didn't want to, I don't know how to like blank screen
you
that.
have wonderful
So I have to like be
opportunities.
fussing with it. So I told her as soon as one of the questions
Very high caliber career
which is
services.
why is I here to facilitate my
Work with them and make use of their services and follow their advice.
they were in that
Our
bag.
students get wonderful jobs.
The 60-day grace period for the study of the job.
So the grace period is following completion of studies. You have a grace period for F1 is 60 days to prepare to depart. But if you apply for OPT and it's pending beyond the 60 days, you're still allowed to be here. So what basically the recommended, the requested start date for OPT when you apply cannot be more than 60 days from the end of the program, which coincides with the end of that. Did I miss something?
There's one right here.
Oh, okay.
I have applied for a green card and I can get it through the next year. I have to go through the same procedure.
So I'm sorry, say this again.
So I have applied for a green card like 12 years ago and I may get it next year. So do I have to go through the same procedure?
When are you graduating?
I'm a freshman.
Oh, you're a freshman. So once and you're currently in F1?
Yeah.
So once you are granted permanent residency, we have, what is it, status update e-form. So you would submit a status update e-form, upload the documentation that you now have permanent residency. We will change your status within Penn State and we see this. And no, this is for people who are in F1 status. Once a person is granted permanent residency, an F1 is what's called a non-immigrant permanent residency. You have immigrated. So you don't have to bother with this stuff.
You're done with us. We say bye. No party, no balloons, just disappear.
You're welcome. Well, we really enjoyed it, and we have wonderful advisors and very knowledgeable advisors in our office. So if further questions come up, please come in for advice.
Right, thank you.
Okay, we're just gonna take a couple minutes to set up for this next portion, where you get to ask questions, and we will pass around a mic, I think, so that
I
you can
don't
clearly
want
hear
to give out
questions.
the PowerPoint,
But give us a
if
couple
you
minutes
think
to get
people
set up
need
with
it, we
our
could
student
convert it to
ask question
PDF.
alum
That would
panel,
be great,
and we'll
yeah,
get started
because I'm
with
gonna
the
send out,
next
thank
portion,
you, so it'll be great if you can do
Like
that.
I said, bathrooms are down
Thank you
the
so
hall.
much.
Welcome. I love this kind of.
Yes, yes, awesome. All right, who want to bring the panels, bring your chairs out?
Okay, great. We're doing a lot more.
And then, hey Leslie, do you have the mic? She does, okay, perfect. You have a question?
Yeah,
Hi.
can I get multiple CP and together OT?
So you have a year worth of CPT that you can utilize. So a full-time CPT, so you could potentially do like 2 internships and things like that, as long as you've gone over 12 months of CPT.
So like class together, like,
Yeah, and it has to be with a curriculum, so it has to be tied to a class.
cause I have like, I'm, cause this, right now it's fall and I'm doing the internship right now.
Mhm.
And I'm still applying for the internship like during the summer.
That's fine, as long as it doesn't go over 12 months.
Okay, so like all the months.
So good, yeah, like you have like probably like 2.5 months in the summer, and then however many months you're doing the internship now. So together that would be maybe 7 months.
Okay, because I thought I'm going to also apply for the internship spring as well. Then it won't work if I have 3.
I would
that I got.
maybe make an appointment with them to see how that technically works, but I know you get up to a year of CPT. But I would maybe chat with
But
DISSA.
it will be like over 1 year, so it's.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying I don't want to tell you if there's like exceptions or anything like that. So, okay. All right. All right. Leslie, we're ready whenever you are.
Okay.
So yep, I just having Andrea put on her camera and we're set.
Okay, so we're gonna go get started with the second portion of the evening. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. So we have 3 student panelists up here right now.
Plus 1 alum.
And then, of course, we have an alum online as well, Andrea. Hello, Andrea, you can hear us, hopefully. So I'm going to have them briefly introduce themselves, and then it's really just an open panel discussion. I do have some questions I can throw at the group here, but please ask your questions. I think we'd much rather ask your questions than some questions that we thought of ahead of time, okay? So why don't we start on this side over here?
Hi everyone, I'm Marco. I'm a senior at Penn State, majoring in finance. Last summer I moved for a startup in Chicago. The major path is like technology consulting. I was doing sales and business analyst positions and much more, but yes.
I'm Mahima. I'm a mechanical engineering student. I'm a junior, and in the past, I have interned with 2 companies. One and Comcast. I can talk about that.
Hi, my name is Salman. I'm from Oman, and I'm also a senior here in Penn State, majoring in gas, communication, art and science, and liberal arts. I did an internship during the summer with Switch Global DC, which is based in the DMV area. My main focus was in the internship with sales and design campaign, marketing campaigns, and it was interesting experience.
Good, thank you. Andrea, could you just give us a quick introduction?
Hi everyone. My name is Andrea. I was a finance major. I just graduated this past May. I interned after my junior year with Macquarie Group on a high yield trading desk, and now I work for Deutsche Bank in securitization research.
Thank you. I apologize for pronouncing your name wrong as well.
That's all right.
So I think we'll open it up to the group now. We can start asking. I'll pass the mic around too, just so we make sure everybody's heard. Who has the first question? Nobody's making eye contact with me. There we go.
So I wanted to ask how you guys found your internships, because going to the career fairs, most companies say they don't sponsor international students or offer that visa opportunity. So how did you guys find a company or an internship that has that?
So I've made a mistake my junior year. I did not apply to as many companies as I should have. Inline careers offers you like the ability to filter your major, business, internship, you can see and apply through there. As I got into my spring semester junior year without an internship, I was like, okay, what's the other way I can get the experience in the United States? Startups will, 99% will offer you an internship because they need more people for them to grow. So if, in case you're interested in the startup life, I would recommend that.
Another thing to do is when you're always like looking for opportunities or internships, try to focus on, since you are international, the most likely the companies that will employ you or take you with them will be a company that has already some international staff with them. So, myself, I use LinkedIn for the most cases, and when I search for companies and like organizations, I try to see who's linked to that organization, if there's international people with them. And when I apply, I just mention to them that I need sponsorship, and they would like notify if that's possible.
I think LinkedIn is a very strong tool, and not a lot of companies that sponsor come to career fairs. So I think LinkedIn is a really powerful tool. Keep updating your LinkedIn, keep checking the jobs that are posted. I got my first internship and second internship both through LinkedIn. I just applied online for LinkedIn and it worked out. And keep updating, keep engaging yourself, and it should work.
Andrea, anything to add?
Yeah. As far as I could hear, the question was about obtaining an internship, correct?
Yes.
Could you just?
Okay. Sounds good. Not to be redundant, but obviously do research on the companies that come to the career fairs. There are so many that are coming. It could be discouraging when you see that there are 250 or 200 companies coming to the career fair and not all of them sponsor visas. So in order to, I guess, use your time wisely, do some research, see which companies do sponsor visas, and go from there. Obviously, as some of the other panelists have mentioned, update your LinkedIn, also apply to jobs through LinkedIn, and keep up with your network, because that's that's a great attitude to get a job.
Great, thank you.
So I was just trying to add up on profession before, because like in this career fair that just happened last week, I handed out like 4 resumes or 5 resumes to the operation, not still like in the application process right now, and somehow I feel like it's not going to work anyway, but I'm just going to try it anyway. So like my question is, like the first one, like over there said, like I should apply for as many companies as I can, but like how many is that?
There's no certain number.
So they asked me,
International students, it's really hard, right? Find a company that sponsors, but once you do try to submit many applications as possible. Don't make it generic, so like make every application unique in its own way.
Do you think it
Because that's the way you need to stand out.
there's
Anyone
currently, because we
when
have
you
one
apply.
Okay, so like.
so that's up to you. I'll let you.
So you said that like startup company will provide sponsorship because they need people, right?
They will not provide sponsorship, they will offer you a chance to intern with them. Some of them might be able to sponsor.
Okay.
It's like for them, it's really hard to provide sponsorship. My idea when I said about the startups is to gain the experience within the United States, which will later on help you for a full-time job application.
Okay, so it's like a strategy, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Just to go back to your first question about how many is too many, or like how many companies you should apply to, I think it's not a matter of how many companies you're applying, but how are you fulfilling their requirement? Because when you are applying, there's a lot of things that you have to watch out for. Like say they are requiring specific skills, and you apply, you provide your resume, and you complete the application, but then you are missing that really tiny part, which is basically will set you will get you out of the application list. Another thing to do is whenever you are applying to any company, don't just like apply and forget about it. No, you have to follow up. One of the most important things as foreign employers, if you are a candidate and you are in constant communication with them, that will finally make you stand out from the other applicants. Because if you just applied and forget about it, that will show to the employer that you are not interested in the job. So follow up, ask questions, call them if you can, or just like email them.
Okay, so keep in touch and apply as many as I can. That's it, right? Yeah. Thank you.
And if when you're asking a question, if you could speak right into the mic, not loudly, but make sure that you are heard so that Andre can hear you. If she's having a little hard time, and I imagine anybody online might be having a hard time hearing questions.
So you just talked about startup company that easier policy eventually to apply, but most of startup companies don't post the job opens on that. They don't care on career fear that most of them are not famous enough that we don't know about it. So how can we find opportunities of the startup company?
So I use LinkedIn. There's also a website, I forgot the name of it right now. I'm sure if I send it to the International Council or whatever, they can provide you that website where you can go through and find the startup.
Oh, okay.
So the website is that Glassdoor?
No, Glassdoor helps you with preparing for interviews. You can also find companies through that as well. But I think LinkedIn is the best option to find jobs. You can also filter like how many people are working, the size of when they founded. So in that way, you can probably find stuff.
It's just to clarify, were you asking where you can find companies based on who has maybe given a visa in the past, or what kind of searching are you asking about?
Like startup.
Oh, startup? Oh, okay. Did you have another comment?
Yeah, I was just saying, startup is a great way to build your resume, to add your profile, to gain experience. But like we should also not neglect the opportunities that Penn State gives us. Penn State has a really good research program, and I think that's how I got my first internship. So if you can look for research opportunities, or if by any chance you are interested in research, go talk to the professors, go talk to the research department, which is related to your major, and they can help your way through it. So you don't have to like spend all the time throughout the summer. You can do it during the semester time. And they also give out scholarships, which works out.
Other questions? And panelists, if you could speak
speak up too, especially since you're not mic'd.
So I have a question about like how do you balance your academic life and your job seeking application process? Because so now maybe most for searching for jobs, but you need to prepare for interviews. So I wonder how many hours do you spend each day on those stuff. Maybe you think that can make it successful.
I think the time that you spend on, like myself, I spend about just an hour weekly, and that was enough for me, but it's not a matter of how much time, but how effective you are. If you are just like spending 20 hours a week and you are searching on not like just in the right place and you are not doing the right action, that won't lead to any results. But if you are using 1 hour and using it effectively, asking the right people, using the right resource, that will get you to what you want. But like, it's not a matter of time, but how you use the right resource. Like in liberal arts, we have the career enrichment network, and that was one of the right places to ask. Like, if I had one of the things, the first thing I ask them is my resume in the right structure? Is it like the right way I should like submit it, or I should make change? And that's where they will lead you to other questions and other resources.
I wonder if it gets kind of in relation to the question that was asked about how many jobs you should apply for. I mean, in theory, you could apply for 500 jobs, but if you're not doing, you know, Andrea had the magic word networking. If you're not doing the quality work behind the 500 applications, it's going to be much less worth your while. Whereas I think what you're saying is, hey, I only put an hour in, but it's a solid hour, and I'm really doing it in the most effective way possible. Yeah.
I would say that I think engaging as an underclassman. So for example, as in my freshman and sophomore year, I absolutely went to every single company meet, even though I wasn't interested in the company. It was whether it was a consulting or marketing or supply chain positions that they were offering. I just went to get the experience and get the network and figure out, you know, what I could learn from them, because you can always learn as an underclassman, no matter what the industry is. And all those experiences can be very valuable. And then once you get into your junior year and your senior year, and once you're applying, I think that I more focused where I was networking, because I know what I wanted to do. But I have limited probably my applications to 4 or 5 per week. Just to give you an example, for my full-time, I applied for about 36 jobs. But it is manageable. I worked and I was able to keep up with my schoolwork. But, it's just, you know, how much you really want it.
Like, there is no secret formula, right? You know, some people get it when they apply for their first job. Some people apply for like hundreds and still it doesn't work out. So there's no such number that you have to apply for like 500 jobs and you get like 20 interviews or something. For my first internship, I just applied to one company, one role, and I got the internship. For my second internship, I applied to 20 companies and then I got one interview and one internship. So as we said, how effective it is and how you network, try to find the recruiters, try to look up on LinkedIn, people who went to Penn State and are also working at that company. Text them up, ask them about their experience. And one thing I think people find it very annoying is that you directly text someone for reference. Like, first get to know the description, first get to know what the job is. If you feel you have something to contribute to that job, then ask for the referral and always mention why you would be good for this position. A stranger cannot just give you a referral without even knowing you. So I think those are small things to keep in mind while networking.
You said how to balance school and applying, right? Yeah. So what I do after every day from 8 p.m. when I get back home, I sit down for 3 hours, do research, I make a list, I keep it in my Excel spreadsheet, as was mentioned before, so I don't forget about the position I applied for in the company. And my goal is to apply for like 5 to 10 a week, just to keep that going. So that's during that process and that shape of applying in the have memorized the job description, so it's easier to prepare after the interview.
But for you, that was a manageable goal, right? And I
Yes.
think that's also important. It should be a manageable, I'm gonna apply for 400 jobs this week, it's probably not manageable. But 5 to 10, 3 hours a night, that was for you, that was.
Yeah, when you get back home, when you have free time, being on the internet, and like instead of watching Netflix or watching a TV show, if you really want to stay in the United States and work, take those couple hours and do some research, try to find as many companies.
For me, like when I'm studying and I'm like, okay, I have got enough of this content, I don't want to study anymore. I go through LinkedIn, apply for 1 or 2 jobs, read about it, and then get back to studying. So it doesn't have to be a time you give for job search or job application. You can do it between your studies while you're having your lunch or something. So, but just be sure that you know what you're applying. Yeah. Don't make it a chore. Don't make it like it's so stressful. Do it between gaps. Do it between your study time, and it should work out.
And other thing, it doesn't have to be like one, like from the time you start searching for the companies or for the opportunity, from the time you apply and like finish the process in 1 second. Sometimes you will take like 4 weeks because you will be learning about the company, you will be discovering new things, you will be connecting or networking with people. So don't stress about it as like, I need to finish 2 companies or 3 companies this week, because sometimes you, as Marco mentioned, you will be texting people and wait for their response and maybe sometimes ask them questions about the job, what's like and what their experience is like in that company. And that will take time. So maybe just text somebody and wait for their response, try to learn something new about that company and proceed later.
I will say, speaking as a mom, self-care is important too. So you need to take 20 minutes and watch Netflix. I think that's okay. Or go for a run.
Just not 8 hours of
Not 8
Netflix.
hours of Netflix, okay? But make sure you're managing your self-care too. That's only gonna make you better in the job search anyway. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Brian. I have 2 questions to everyone. First question is, how difficult it is to get a job or internship as an international student? And second question is, so we're basically competing with American students as to have a job or internship in an American company. So what I don't know what's like what kind of background you guys have in the past, but what do you think you guys have? What made you stand out to impress them in the company? Like what you prepared, or like what kind of research you did, or this is my question.
So you
My major in electrical engineering. Sophomore.
Yeah. So one important thing is, don't think you are competing with an American student. It's just the rule. It is what it is. Like it's the government rule. It's not because they don't like international students. It's just how the policies and economics work. So you are not competing with anybody. Trust your qualification and you should be fine. But like I feel it is hard. It is definitely challenging to get an internship, but it is also easier for engineering students because while I was filtering what majors people are hiring for career fair, I think engineering has a lot of them. So being in a STEM field makes it a little bit easier, but it is still challenging as an international student. And how do you overcome is, I think, get leadership experience, get professional experience, try to network with right people on campus, outside campus, use LinkedIn as much as you can. Look at Penn State people who have worked in previous companies, who are also international students. Try to ask them what their experiences were, and if they can give you referral. If your profile matches with the job description they have, ask them how you can improve. If they can give you in future, they can give you referral. So you have to go a little extra mile and network, be at the right places, apply at the right places, put an effort in your resume, make your resume stand out. As an international student, you have to make yourself stand out. That's a requirement. Why would a company want to hire ask yourself, what kind of skills I can develop at school? What kind of skills I can develop outside? If you can answer those questions, the company will be able to see it. And I think resume is really important. Resume is first lens of who you are. So make it stand out. During the career fair, this company gave me a tip that put a fun fact or give a title, ask me about this, and just put something like fishing or like scuba diving, and they would definitely love to interview you. And interview is half battle done. So yeah, just all those things.
And if I could just interject here, like, because I want to hear what the other students have to say, but I know as a career services person, when we have conversations with international students, and even here in these kinds of programs, we focus a lot on those negative things. And some of those negative things, like government policies, nobody in this room, nobody even the employers can really do a whole lot about. But also think about all the assets that you have as an international student for an employer. Shout them out. What are some of the assets that the average domestic U.S. student does not have?
You can speak so many languages.
Language ability. What else?
Adaptability.
Adaptability. I'll be honest with you. The fact that you are here studying, some of you are here studying in a language that is not your own, I'm amazed by that. I am honestly floored by, I can't even imagine, even if I could speak another language, I can't even imagine going to a new place and doing this. It's hard for U.S. students to go to college and be successful. So adaptability is another part of it. What else? Shout them out. There's a bunch more.
Your adventures, because you are away from your families, from your friends, from everyone, from your environment.
Yep. Like that, it was adaptability. You have cultural knowledge of somewhere else. There's a whole lot of things. So don't forget about that piece as well. And you mentioned about selling yourself as an international. That's it right there. It's not just all the things that your colleagues who are U.S. students have. I'll tell a joke real quickly, okay? We gotta lighten the mood a little bit, all right? And it's, so I think you'll get this one. So when you know 3 languages, what do you say? I'm trilingual, right? When you know 2 languages, what do you say? When you know 1 language, what do you call yourself? American. All right, so you got a lot. Don't forget about that, okay?
Don't you accept that the recruiters are telling you that we don't sponsor, or they honestly cannot do much about it. It's like coming from way higher offices which are beyond their control. So, just accept it, move on, and focus on the bright side, like what companies are sponsoring. I'm sure there are a lot, if you look at the right places on LinkedIn and other places, there are a lot of jobs who would be more than happy to have all.
Another thing is to do, I think, which is the very, very beginning of this whole process, is when you are applying, try not to have one uniform resume or CV that you send to the employees, because in some companies you are applying, they need some specific things, and you may have that requirement as an international student, but then you forget to mention that. So before you even send your resume, try to look through their website, what the PA student wants, what they really want. So include that in your resume. Don't lie about it, but if you have the experience, if you have the requirement, mention it. Don't forget, just like to say, because myself, I had throughout my first year, I had one uniform resume, and that's what I used for most of the opportunities that I got in. But then I learned that not all of those companies, all of those organizations, all of those positions I got in wanted those things that I mentioned in my resume. They look for something else that they figure out from the interview or from the cover letter. So just make sure that you mention them from the first thing that you had in, which is the resume.
Could we give an opportunity for Andrea? I don't know if you've been trying to chime in, or if you want to add anything. I don't want to forget that.
Yeah, definitely. So to the answer to the question, it is hard, but it's not impossible. I think that one of the great advantages once you go through the search of the job process is the amount of strength that you gain. Chances are, being international, you are going to get rejected a lot. I can't even count the times, but that doesn't really matter. You just need one company to say yes, and you just need to find that one fit, and that's all that matters. So keep it positive. Just think, okay, if this company didn't offer me a job, that just means that it's not a mutual fit. It doesn't mean that there is something wrong with you. It just means that it's purely not a mutual fit. There were companies who reached out to me and said, oh, we would love to hire you, but it's just our policy. We don't sponsor visas. If something changes in your status, let us know. So it's not always that they don't like you or there's something wrong with you. It's just simply that it's not a mutual fit, and you should keep a positive mindset going into it like that. And just how to differentiate yourself, I guess, among other interns in the workplace. I think that Penn State, if it gave me anything, it gave me networking skills, because there is a huge alumni base, and alumni always come back and want to help out. So never be limited to not reaching out to them. Always make sure that if there's an alumni program, an alumni mentorship program, that you're signed up for it. You can learn a lot from it. And I think that two things that people have given me as feedback was always that they were impressed by my networking skills, how I always send thank you emails and follow-ups. And the second one was just curiosity. I would encourage you to always be curious to learn more. And always ask questions, because that's how people know that your brain is working. So.
We already said it's really hard. Applying for internships and jobs, it's a mental game. Don't let, they already said, it's so demoralizing when you get like 15, 20 rejection emails. Just have to think, as Andrea said, you only need one company. You just keep trying, it's gonna happen. Best way to differentiate yourself from the others, stay involved on campus. That's a big thing, like get leadership positions, because in some ways it's gonna help you stand out from the others. Doesn't have to be organization or club within your major, you whatever. And that might be something that's gonna intrigue a recruiter or an HR manager, that they will show their attention, or they will express that they want to talk to you and learn more about, hey, why did you join cooking club or something like that. Again, as an engineering major, I believe there's a lot of opportunities for research. So definitely check that out. Again, look up the companies that are coming to campus for their information sessions. Go there, ask questions, stay after the event, talk to recruiters about either the position or where they go to school, what do they like. Try to connect with them more of a personal level than professional. It's going to make you stand out more. It's going to make the conversation more memorable when you're part of the So, yeah.
And another thing, just to build on that and back to the point that Andrea pointed, networking that will help you a lot, like when you're speaking to the representative for any company, because if you mention to them that you know somebody in the company and you already spoke to him, that will be put you on an advantage compared to the other candidates or other applicants. So try to mention what you have talked about, and if you know that employee in their company and how amazing he is, bring that to the conversation, because it will help you actually ease the conversation, and also give them the impression that you are actually interested in this job and you already like it.
Thank you.
We have other questions? Let me get you in the back here.
Hi, so I went to an all-girls women's school in the US, and we had like a co-curriculum program where students could like work at different places in the US for like 5 weeks. So I was just like wondering, because that's like on my resume. But I don't think of like the internships as like jobs. So let's say like I applied for a job would that be like my first job? Like, I don't know if it makes sense. Like if I was asked like if that was like the first job again in the US, like would I say yes? Because like those internships weren't paid internships.
Are you a freshman?
No, I'm a junior.
You're a junior.
I'm confused about the question.
So I'm only asking this because like I applied for like a common sense stuff, and then when the guy like interviewing me asked like if I had like if that job would be like my first job, I said like yes, and then like later I didn't get the job and I asked him why. Like I sent him an email because like I was like it's like a winning opportunity for me. Like why didn't I get it? And then he was like he said like it was because like on my resume like it said that I had done like all these internships, and when he asked me, I said like that would be my first job. So then I was thinking of it like for like companies like that aren't on campus. Like would I say like that would be like the first job that I'm getting, or do I mention those internships and be like like I did these jobs as well? I don't know if it makes any sense.
I think this is kind of like subjective, just to make sure that I understand your question. You are asking if you already work in other internships or other position in which you are paid, but then you apply for a full-time opportunity or full-time position, and you mentioned that because it says a job, not internship, you mentioned that it will be your first job, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of subjective because for myself, when I applied, I had for this last opportunity or internship. When I applied, I already worked for different positions and all of them are here on campus. But when they asked me about it, I mentioned they are jobs because I was paid for it. So,
Did you say you were paid?
yeah, I were paid for it, even though they were on campus. It wasn't like as official as it seems to be. The second thing, I did some kind of task. You work something, so that's a job. It's not like your very best job. So basically, those opportunities are what you make out of that. If you mentioned that they were just volunteering, they will be volunteering. If you mentioned that they were a real job, they will be a real job because you did something.
I might even just make note, like there are internships that are unpaid as well. So that's where it's like based off of a curriculum. So since yours was in high school and through a curriculum, I think you could still consider it a work experience because it'd be no different than having an unpaid internship as a sophomore or a junior, but you're taking that internship credit. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think the point is, don't ever be afraid to clarify with employers. What exactly do you mean by your job? How are you defining job? Don't be afraid to ask questions and clarify, because then you can avoid those situations where you're saying one thing and you're thinking something else, and it's just miscommunication, right?
Yeah. And then
This past summer, my internship was unpaid, but I still considered it as a job that I had because I worked for 8 hours. I had tasks that I had to accomplish throughout the organization. One way you can kind of help that is to like on your resume put like kind of work experiences and list all the positions, like if it was a job on campus, if that experience also counts as a work experience. Going under that, so it makes it clear, yes, I work here, and these were the tasks that I did there. It'll help you and the recruiter understand.
Thank you.
Other questions? So I'm going to ask you all a question, and it's kind of related to what you all learned in the last session. I don't think the gentleman is here anymore, but we had a conversation about when you tell recruiter, how you tell, when you tell them about your visa status, et cetera. And so how do you tell recruiters that you require sponsorship? When do you tell them? What was that like for all of you in the process?
So,
Okay, go ahead, Marco.
Why don't you go ahead first, Andrea?
So for me, I think that I just would recommend so researching companies, know if they're sponsoring visas, because if they're not sponsoring, then don't waste your time and interest on them, because there are companies who can't sponsor you. So I would suggest you allocate your time towards them. And then if they do sponsor visas, it doesn't need to be from my experience, doesn't need to be verbally communicated in case you do know that they do sponsor. I had it on my resume, in meaning that my permanent address was in Serbia. So when they looked at my resume, they knew that I was international. And I always, when I was introducing myself to them, when they asked, oh, tell me a little bit about yourself, I said, I'm an international student from Serbia studying finance, and et cetera, et cetera. So usually when they hear the word international, if that sparks them, if they don't sponsor visas, they're going to ask you, so do you need sponsorship? And they will tell you, sorry, for this position, we don't sponsor. Otherwise, they're just going to continue the conversation, you know, as in you're a candidate like, you know, any other American.
Yeah, so I'm applying right now for the full-time positions, and I removed my permanent address from the resume just to give myself a chance to get that interview, get that connection. The one thing I do before I apply, I'll look at my visa jobs and see how many applications they had in the past year, and that will give me a good understanding that they apply to a lot of people for visa. Even though they say that they don't sponsor, I think that I will give myself a chance to build that connection with the recruiter. If they really like me, there might be a chance they'll be like, you know what, get a job. So they all depend.
I think I follow the same technique. So I did not start by saying I'm an international student. I talk about my previous internship. I talk about my projects, research experience, and then we have a conversation. And I think during the interview, I think that's the time that I tell them that I'm an international student. And after that, I don't feel disappointed if they reject me just because I'm an international student. You have to be prepared with that they can reject you just because you are an international student, but that's a chance you should be willing to take. And another thing is, it's just as he said, it's about building that network. I know there are companies who definitely hire international students, like I have friends who got hired, but when they come for a career fair, they say that we don't sponsor. So I think it's all about building the network. You never know how that company is going to help you in the future. Or sometimes the rules change. Like I know so many companies who were sponsoring last year, but aren't sponsoring this year. And it's a possibility that when they come back, they'll be sponsoring next year. And if the recruiter already knows you, if you interview with them, it will put you ahead of the game next year. So keep building that network. I'm not saying go start applying with companies who don't sponsor at all. Make a suggested choice. Like take a very calculated risk that I know friends who work here, or I know people who work here and have sponsored in the past. So try to target those companies.
Just to build off of that, and what Jazz said, it's definitely important to make calculated risk and choose companies like specifically like, hey, I think that there's a lot of people who are from different countries and they work there, but at the same time, you don't want to waste your time and waste your energy on sponsor. But again, you want to give yourself the best shot that you can by giving, you know, by going all out about it. Like at the end of the day, you can say, I did my best, it didn't work out, but there's nothing to regret about it.
Just like to go back to the basic question, when and how. I think it depends on how you apply, because in some sites like they will give you the option to like point out that you need sponsorship in different requirements. Some other companies don't. So if you have the chance from the beginning, just mention it, because not to waste your time and the employer time, mention the fact that you need sponsorship in the future. The second thing, and for my case, I didn't mention the fact because as an international student, and I was looking for just internship, not full-time position, and we are allowed to do this CPT and also OPT on our student visas. So I wasn't looking actually for that sponsorship, because basically we don't need for just temporary job. So I went and I didn't ask him about the sponsorship, and I started the job. But during the job, I actually showed them that, because here's the thing, why a company wouldn't sponsor you, they don't see the value in you that will be added to their company or their organization. So you need to show them that you will add something, because to them it's a cost and a value. If the value exceeded the cost, they will definitely sponsor you. They will see some kind of advantage in you. So you need to build that relationship to show them the value in you, what you can add to their environment, to their like net profit or anything they work on, so they are willing to actually take a risk and sponsor.
Let me also say a little something about career fairs and how, at least the ones I'm familiar with, work here at Penn State. We've tried to do a little bit more with employers who want to come to the career fair ahead of time. So we've added a couple of questions. It used to just be that they do sponsor, right, Sherry?
Mm-hmm.
But now we've added in also, okay, maybe you don't sponsor, but do you do CPT, OPT, et cetera, right? So that's another layer. But what you do have to understand is, especially if it's larger companies, the person that is checking the box, yes, to sponsor, is not necessarily the person who's showing up at the fair. That person might have just been sent back to Penn State for a fair because they're an alum. They're not an HR expert necessarily. And so I think going back to, I think it was your point about being persistent and asking questions. And just because that person says, no, I don't know anything about the sponsorship thing. Well, maybe they don't sponsor for the position that they are at that fair for that exact day. Or maybe they're just not aware of all of the rules in their company. But what you might ask, especially if you've done some homework and you know the company has sponsored somebody at some point, right? You might ask, and I understand that, is there somebody you could direct me to that I might be able to ask more questions, or do you know of, an HR representative, et cetera? But you might want to dig a little deeper and not just take it from that. It's not that they're lying to you or anything like that. They just may not, the person who comes to the fair might not have been the person to check off the box saying yes, we sponsor. I know that's a frustration of our international students, get all the way to the front of the line at the company and to be told no, even though the box was checked. But try to dig a little deeper and get in contact somewhere else. Okay?
So from
That,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
So from my experience, last year I got interviewed with Philips, and the position they interviewed me for it was a research and development part, so they weren't sponsoring international students. But this time again, I went to Curricular, even though they say that we don't sponsor, I just went there and asked how my resume looks and explained what I have done and my credentials. So they told me that we do have some positions that do not need sponsorship. So the idea is to find those positions and see if they match with your credentials. And that way you can build up networks, start looking at those companies as well.
Andrea, what did you want to add?
So ideally, if you come to the career fair, you have interacted with the company before in some kind of shape or form, and you have been talking to other people, and most often than not, if not at the career fair, they do send some HR representatives at networking events so that they can answer questions like visa sponsorship. And I would encourage you to go to those sessions and talk to them in a more informal situation where it's not the career fair or an interview. But also just remember that not only a career fair is an opportunity to get a job. My first job I got referred by a person who I met at a tailgate at Penn State, that's why Penn State is so great, because there are so many opportunities and so many connections. So you just need to know how to be able to make an opportunity of a situation. When somebody's saying like casually, oh yes, I work in this field, and you're like, well, I'm really interested in this field, and they will say, oh, well, email me Monday, and if you actually do follow up, you might end up on an interview, which was my case. So I would suggest, if you're, I can't really see the room, so I don't know what grades people are in, but if you're an underclassman, I would highly suggest you go and talk to the companies in informal sessions and during the career fairs, because by the time you're a junior, you're actually looking for that junior year internship or a full-time job. You will already be relaxed talking to recruiters, so which will already give you a leg up.
So there you have it. We have this silly little game in this game oh, football. Ridiculous, it's a ridiculous sport. But tailgating is the way to go sometimes, yeah?
As long as you're able to be there and having the conversation while tailgating.
But there's a lot of different situations where you can, it is, I love that point that you made. It's not just career fairs, there's a lot of other places to meet people, and some can be really. Great. Any questions? Oh, okay.
We have about 15 minutes,
Okay, good.
12 minutes-ish.
So I heard that we different companies have different requirements. We can apply for the companies that we fulfill their requirements. So are there requirements that we have to fulfill in general? That's my first question. And my second question is, should my school life be aiming for one specific area or like one specific position or field? So is it better to be specialized in one specific area or have ability in a broader area?
So, can you please repeat the question?
Also mention what your major and what your area was.
So the first question was, what are the requirements in general? So there are so many different requirements.
What's your major?
My major is on-site. I didn't see business school. My major is on-site.
Can you define what requirements means? What do you mean by the application requirements or? Okay.
So, in my experience, in my knowledge, the country requirements, first of all, whenever you are about to apply and you look at the job description, there are requirements that ask, and I believe that those are the only requirements you need to go for that position. To go to your second question, I think you don't necessarily need to be specialized for one thing. As long as you show that you are willing to learn, that you are eager to ask questions, you're curious, you ask good questions, you show that you're involved and that you actually want to succeed. I think that's something that the recruiters in the company want more than someone who specializes. Because they can teach you whatever the job is. When you come to work first day, like first day of the week or so, or a month, it's gonna be training to prepare you for the work. Like they're gonna teach you the necessary skills for that position. So I don't think that you necessarily have to be specialized for that.
I kept asking myself that question, the second question, throughout my freshman year, sophomore year, that do I have to target a specific position, like as a mechanical engineering? Do I just have to look at robotics or manufacturing or just one? But over the time I did some research, now I'm double majoring mechanical engineering and IST. And I think people love diversification in your resume. Like one of my internships was with mechanical engineering, one was with IST, and people ask me, why are these two internships so different from each other? I was like, I'm an undergrad student. I want to experience, I want to get as much exposure to different fields as possible. Like, so don't be specific. Being specific is like closing doors. It's like doing PhD, like just focusing on one thing. You are an undergrad student. This is the time when you actually find out what your likings are. Don't be scared to go do research or internship with a major that is totally different with yours. As an engineering student, you can go into consulting. As a mechanical engineering, you can do research within the bio. So use this time to explore and find out what exactly you like. So don't limit yourself to one role, one position. And as for the requirements, I think, are you looking for skill requirements or more on the application part?
I mean, do companies require us to have specific, for example, volunteering activity or experience?
It's always great to have some kind of volunteering and leadership experiences. It just shows that you have a strong work ethic and you have some kind of professionalism with you. So they don't have to teach you that. And another, as a freshman, it will be great if you can show like volunteering hours, or if you have a position or membership in some kind of club and how you have contributed. What also makes differences if you have any kind of campus jobs. It's a big deal because you take out a chunk out of your routine to go to that campus job. You are being punctual. You are taking some kind of responsibility. So recruiters love to see those kind of things. And if you have academic experience, like maybe I did proctoring in my freshman year, so that again shows a sense of integrity. So try to find out those skills, find out those jobs here on campus. And yes, they do like seeing it. Get certifications in Excel. You will use Excel everywhere, whatever field you go. Get exposure with Microsoft Suite, like the entire thing. Those skills will stay with you in whatever field.
Just to go back to my, when I was answering about the skills, I didn't get the question right. Try to get as involved as possible. That shows, like, if you have many different involvements in campus with different organizations, it shows that you're managing your time really great, which is one thing they're looking for. When it comes to volunteering and community service, I know that some companies are really big on that. So if you don't just put that you're interested in community service, because if you, like when you put an interest section on your resume, you have a few examples for that. Always prepared. So if you really want to do volunteering and community service, actually go and commit, I don't know, throughout the semester. Do that so that you have those experiences and you can talk about it and say, hey, I have a passion about volunteer community service. This is what I've done in the past.
The other thing about your question, do you want to be so specialized or specific in what you're working on or what you want to work on? You said you are in SMEAL college, right? And you have like the finance, you have the accounting, you have the sales, all of those majors, right? And if you were to, if you are an employer and you want to employ somebody, you would employ somebody who is just specialized in accounting, or you have the option to employ somebody who is who can do finance, who can do accounting, who can do sales, who can do marketing, and all of those things. I think you will take the opportunity with somebody who's kind of like well-rounded and you know something about everything, not just like everything about one thing. So you always want to have that as diversification in your resume.
I would say that probably 80% of the time the company's not going to hire you because of the skills that you have, but because of the skills that you are able to get. On my first day on my internship, I remember my manager asked me, okay, so what finance classes did you take? And I told him, I listed all of them. And he said, okay, forget everything that you learned. We're starting from scratch. So he knew with my energy that I brought into the interview and the interaction and stuff showed through my interviewing process that I'm that capable individual to learn. And that is the best quality you can have. And that's why I will always say curiosity is the best characteristic that will get you a job, because you're always intellectually curious and you always want to know more. And there is no better attitude than that. But another really good point that I've heard, really be involved on campus and make sure like your involvements are differentiated, not from other people, but like between each other. I was, for example, I mean, I don't know about all the different majors, but in business, they do want to see that you can balance different things at once with schoolwork, or if you're working also. I was in the business fraternity and president of another organization. And I was in a mentoring program, so I was showing that I was giving back to the college. So those are all the attributes that people want to see when they want to hire you, that you are going to be that interactive person who is not just going to sit at the desk, but you're going to interact with the company and you're going to want to make an input and like leave an imprint on it. So just again, be curious and go out there and use all your opportunities that Penn State gives you. I know I missed them now that I've graduated.
Only thing I'll say, and we're gonna take one more question, I think, is don't confuse membership with involvement. You know, I think employers will much prefer somebody who's really involved in a couple of things rather than somebody who's just a member of 10 different orgs and goes every once in a while to meetings to eat pizza, okay? So be involved, don't just be, going to get pizza. Pizza's good. I'll give you that.
Sorry if I can add one more thing, but it's when people ask you, oh, how would you react in this situation? Like, for example, an interview question, it is so much easier to answer it when you have experience. When you say, oh, well, I've experienced this situation in my organization, this is how I handle it. So they do know that you possess the skills that you are saying that you do.
Absolutely. Let's get one more quick question and we're going to wrap up for the evening. Yes.
Were there any Penn State resources that you used other than career? Were there any websites that you could go to? Or anything else that Penn State specifically offered you or like for international students?
Hidden inline careers, that's what I'm using right now. You can filter based on your major, and then there's an option like for visa sponsorship available, yes or no. I'll just select yes, and then you can also filter full-time or internship positions. And based on the major, there's a list of the companies that stated that they sponsor and that you can apply to.
Think of it, because we are here in the university, over 100,000 students, over I think 40,000 faculty on this campus. Think of each of those as a resource for you, because if you can talk to each of them and try to find some opportunity, you'll get into something by the end. Also, the faculty and the research members here on the campus, the instructors, just express what you are interested in, and they will guide you to something.
Any others?
I would say don't underestimate your professors because, again, I don't know what majors are in the classroom, but again, I can speak from my own experience where companies reach out to professors and ask them for recommendations from students. And I got a recommendation from a supply chain professor because I was the only person who came to his office hours. So definitely utilize them as a resource, utilize other students, recent alumni, recent grads. Career services, obviously, they're a great resource, and LinkedIn.
So that's actually a perfect segue here to wrap up. And I do want to mention, even though it's cheating on your question a little bit, I would say the hundreds of thousands of alumni all over the world, for that matter. You can find them on LinkedIn, you can find them in Line Link. You're really lucky to graduate from a university that has so many alumni who also are willing to help answer questions. The other resource I wanted to mention, you mentioned, Marco, Nittany Line Careers. In Nittany Line Careers, I believe on the right-hand side, there's a resource called Going Global, which is fantastic. There's an H-1B visa listing there where you can plug in a few criteria, including the area, the job title, et cetera, and find companies that maybe would have provided a visa in the past. Now, it's not a set in stone thing, but I think like some of the panelists have been saying tonight, why use that time effectively, that hour a night or a week that you're using to go after the companies that have done it in the past, rather than folks who have never done it. So that can be a really effective tool. So that's called Going Global. So the other thing I just want to end on is that, while you have your colleagues, your fellow students, et cetera, to ask for help, don't forget about the rest of us. We're here to help you. And there's only so much all of us, employers, service professionals, et cetera, can do when it comes to policies, et cetera, in the US. But we are here to help you. And each of you has your own individual story. We talked a lot about your assets. And the assets Marco has is going to be different from all of you, et cetera. So let us help you craft that story so you can be as effective as possible. When you get burned out, when you get bummed out, when you get frustrated by the process, your service is here to help you. Your colleges are here to help you. We have a couple of college representatives here tonight as well. We're all here to help you get through this as best as possible. So please don't forget that we are here to help you. And then the final thing I will say is that little piece of paper